Philadelphia Flyers Hockey Club. They play tonight in what used to be their big rivalry game. I'm not so sure if it's been that way lately. 7:30 tonight. A little bit later start, 7:30 to accommodate the national TV audience. And you can listen to it right here on 97.3 ESPN. We are joined by Flyers radio analyst who will have the call with Tim Saunders, Steve Coates. Stephen, how are you, sir?
Thank you. And how are you today?
We are doing well, thank you. And looking at a Flyers team that is not doing so well, quite frankly. Earlier before we had you on, I read a couple pieces out of Marcus Hayes' column. I believe this was, let's see when he published this, I think this was yesterday. And his opening line, Coatsy, was, if you know you're going to die, then it's best to die at home. That's where the Flyers season met its end Monday night for all practical purposes. It was neither an untimely death nor especially cruel. It was something of a mercy killing. Any reaction to Marcus's prose? Coatsy. Okay, perhaps we lost Coatsy. We will try again. Take two, as they say in the media business. So Steve Coates is with us, and we're talking about the Flyers hockey team, and we're talking about Marcus Hayes, who had written a column speaking about their playoff chances. They are on life support for sure. Mathematically, they're still alive. But the line that he had was good, and then the second line he has is 3 must-win loss. Could they replicate last season's push? Excuse me. 3 must-win losses later. No. Coatsy, you're back with us, and just your thoughts on this, those kind of phrases of that the season's over.
Before I answer that question, am I allowed on the air to be critical of a design of a certain type of phone that has a mute button right at the bottom of your ear?
As long as you don't name it by product name, have at it, Hoss.
What a dumb design. I got that out of the way.
I bet your answer was great, too, by the way.
In answer to your question, you can't battle or try to debate that comment. I mean, the hockey club, if you can't score when you have 8 power plays, well, the one power play had 4 minutes of absolutely no shots on net. That's just poor. It's very poor. So in trying to debate the fact or battle back to the fact that, well, this or that, I can't come up with anything else but to say that it's just not very good. I mean, they had an opportunity in Toronto to really do something, and the Leafs didn't play very well. It was going to be right there, handed to them. They were doing a great job in the first period, and all of a sudden it stopped. Boston Bruins, same type of thing. Then all of a sudden they got shot 12-4 in the third period. Then you have the miscue by Manning, and it goes into the net. I mean, you can't – the teams that successfully get things together at the proper time, like they did last season, are teams that battle through things. And right now it doesn't appear that the Flyers are battling enough to be successful. They are definitely out shooting teams, but you got to go to the dirty areas. Jordan Wheel's a perfect example. All his goals, and he's not the biggest guy in the world, has been around the net. But nobody else is going around the net. Well, Simmons does and Shen does. But outside of that, we're not getting anything going around the net. And if you take a look at the goals that were scored by Columbus, especially the winner, Dubinsky gets the puck, gets the top of the circle, and we got Hartnell right in front of Mason, right in front of him. No chance of seeing the puck. Bang, that's the game winner. And that's what you need to do. Effectively, that's the structure and the technical type of hockey you need to do to be able to win hockey games, and that's not happening.
I'm so glad Steve Coates is with us. You brought up the power play, and I zeroed right in on the problem, or at least the most recent problem. To say they're struggling is quite an understatement. I mean, they're 11th in the league, but right now they're in a 2-for-26 funk over those last 6 games. So today, apparently Dave Hackstall has switched up some of the power play units ahead of tonight's showdown with Pittsburgh. So Ivan Provorov's now going to be on the top unit, according to the reports I'm reading, with Ghost on the blue line. And then Jake Voracek is going to man the point next to Del Zotto on the second unit. What does that do for the power play in your mind?
Well, you're just shaking things up. You still have to execute. When you put the first 5 guys out on the power play, everything's the same. Okay, Simmons to the right of the goaltender. You got Shen in the middle of the box. You got Voracek at the top of the one circle. You've got Ghost as the quarterback, and then Voracek at the top of the other circle. But what you do is it's about, so everybody knows what you're going to do, and everybody has the same 4 wrinkles here and there. But the bottom line is how you execute for the one thing, and how creative you are. No matter what, your positioning is still the same, but your creativity is what makes things tick. And also the execution. The execution against aggressive power plays is to be able to move the puck as quickly as possible. That's how they got their power play goal the other night with Braden Shen. Bang, bang, bang. And if you take a look at the lot of power plays, bang, bang, in. And if you have any kind of, let's say, thought process where you take too long to make that decision, then they're just going to be able to stop and block the shots. And that's what's happening right now. That's why you're not getting the shots on net, because they're just not making that crisp thought process to get the puck on net. There's a little bit too much thinking going on. And we talk about moving the people around. They did that about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I forget where we were, Edmonton, because they had gone into a funk at the beginning of that game against Calgary when they had the 5-on-3, should have put it away, could have won the hockey game, and that one kind of like flitted away after missing on a 5-on-3 for 2 minutes. So it puts Voracek back there, and it changes that up a little bit. The sad thing is that Jordan Wheel's not going to play tonight, and he'd be a perfect guy to be able to put on that second power play. But that's not going to happen right now, and I'd like to see some new people.
Yeah, Jordan.
Because we talk about the lack of scoring on the first power play. I don't think the second power play has scored in the last, I bet you over 50 opportunities.
I know Jordan Wheel is a guy you like, and I know Jordan Wheel is a guy that has injected some life and pace into some of those top 2 lines. That's for sure. Not going to play tonight, according to Steve Coates. I have some numbers here. You know, I get numbers happy sometimes, Coatesy, but I'll tell you this. According to the numbers I'm reading, Sidney Crosby has 35 goals, and that's one more goal than the combined total of the Flyers' 4 centers: Claude Giroux, Valtteri Filppula, Sean Couturier, and Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. What is when you do that and you go, whoa, like what's your reaction to 35 goals for Sid the Kid and 4 centers on the Flyers can't even get to that number?
Well, I can't once again disagree with him. The numbers, listen, anybody will tell you that if you can have, you're only as good as what you have in the middle. And right now, our centers have not been producing. And your centers are the ones that got to produce. If you take a look at most hockey clubs, and I'm not going to take the time right now and go through it, but I would bet you that the top 2 centers on most hockey clubs are their leading scorers. And I'm not taking that away from Drew right now, because Drew's points have all come on, majority have come on the power play. Has he played well? No. He played a little bit better of late, but he hasn't been the force he has been in the past. Filppula is still trying to find his legs as far as playing with the Philadelphia Flyers. And when you talk about Couturier, he has not been
Coates, you might have hit that mute button again. Coatesy. Steve Coates with us, the Flyers radio host. As we're talking about the Flyers and the Penguins tonight. Coatesy, are you there? That mute button, Josh.
I am here.
There he is.
About this design.
Yes. Okay.
I told you about this design. It's a bad design.
I hear you, sir. Go ahead.
But, that's a very glaring number. Very glaring number. And there's not anybody that's not trying. But I think it's got to be at a point now where we're not seeing the desperation from the hockey club that is needed to be successful. I think that they deserved better in Boston. I thought they played pretty good up until the third period. They kind of got lost in the third period. with Toronto, they started well, but all these different things are moving along. Okay, they came back from a 2-0 deficit against Columbus, but it just all of a sudden stops. And I think the teams that are playoff teams. How's that? Playoff teams are teams that have a hunger and they have a desperation. And I haven't seen enough. I've seen some, but not enough desperation to be able to have the success that this team needs right now at this point.
That was something I talked about on yesterday's show. Steve Coates is with us, the Flyers radio analyst. As I actually sort of went out on a limb and called out some of the desire and the heart of the team, because I wondered why there wasn't more of a sense of urgency for the Flyers. And they just seemed to me, and this is my opinion, that they were comfortable with losing. But we'll talk a little more hockey and a little bit more X's and O's, if you will. And I did put out before you came on, we haven't done this a lot, Coatsy, but I put out a request from our listeners to put in questions, and so they could either text them in or email them in. And John from the Shore wants to know from you, is the Flyers' next number one goalie coming from inside the organization or not? Boy, this is the best. I'm so waiting to hear this answer. Coates, are you there?
I'm not going to tell you that we're not going to go out and try free agency. It would not make sense to me right now to do free agency. I have no idea who's out there that would be available, but I would take a look at the two guys that they have right now in the minors, in Alex Lyons and Anthony Stolarz. Stolarz was very good when he came up. They've signed Noivy. Does that mean that Noivy's going to be here? No, they've signed him. So, at that number, they might be able to move him at that number. Nobody knows in the way this game is played now. Mason, he's played really well of late. But the thing that we've had, and I said this at the beginning of the season, I thought that those two goalies, per each one of them, as a group, as a tandem, as a duo, whatever you want to call them, were going to be as good as anybody in the National Hockey League. Did not work out from day one. Did not work out. Oh, yeah, they've had their streaks, but streaks aren't good enough in the long haul, and we've had too many non-streak situations. So at this point in time, both Stolarz and Lyons have played very good in the minors, but who's going to be the starting goaltender right now? I wouldn't even want to take a guess. I would like to think that Stolarz, in their mind, would come up and be one of the goalies, because Lyons has only got 1 year under his belt. Because Stolarz has been down there, he's been successful, he's having a heck of a year. So if I was a betting guy, that would be definitely the one guy that's going to be here next year.
On a personal note, isn't that kind of like, do you sometimes feel like, because that's the number one question for ever since Hexie retired or left the organization, who the number one goalie is? I mean, it's almost like the weather guy who literally every day goes out somewhere and somebody says, well, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? For you, do you go out somewhere and people almost always gravitate toward the goalies to talk to you about?
Well, first of all, to answer your question there, I would say that we've been a lot better off figuring out goalies than the weatherman has in doing the weather.
Snowmageddon, Coatsy.
I just finished shoveling my driveway. Oh, I'm sorry, there wasn't any snow. Listen, the goalie situation, when you look at after the Hexie, going to the Stanley Cup Finals with Garth Snow, that was a pretty good time. And actually, if you remember correctly, that was a little bit of a battle then, too, because at that time, we played both Garth Snow and Ron Hextall in that Stanley Cup Final against the Detroit Red Wings. That was unheard of to go with two goalies at that time. But Robert Esch was pretty good goalie while he was here. Bush, of course, was a great goalie was here. But we still need to have the goaltending situation be a point where you don't have to look anywhere else but say, yeah, we're going to get the save. Even the great goalies have bad nights, but when you have nights where you're just continually getting that bad goal at the worst rhythm, the worst time in the rhythm of the game, and that's what's really happened to this team this year, with the rhythm and where it's happening, where the power play isn't scoring and the goaltender's letting one in. Those are the two combinations that kill you and make heads sag on the bench, and that's what's happened.
It reminds me of the line when I go into the casinos. If you didn't have bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck at all.
Well, no, you're just a bad gambler. Luck has nothing to do with your problem.
That's true.
Here's the other thing to look at. Is that, okay, we've been a woe is me type conversation here in the last 5 minutes. But you still have an opportunity to make some hay here. And as a professional athlete, you'd like to think that these guys, they got a game against a team that they do not get along with. It's a team that's beat up right now. They're missing 6 guys, and they still keep going and move forward, even despite the 6. That is where your good players are picking you up, and you're getting solid play from everybody, and your goaltender is really good. And that's what this hockey club needs to do tonight, because a lot of different things can happen. And right now are the Tampa Bay Lightning playing really well right now? Yeah. Is New York Islanders, are they playing really well? You have to play them one more time. So nothing's over till it's over, and I would like to think they'd come out and they'd work really hard and make us proud, and at least trying to show us that they really, really understand what's going on.
Steve Coates with us, the Flyers radio analyst, and he is correct. Make some hay. There are still games left to go. I apologize, Coates, if I brought us down too much. Maybe I had a hangover from yesterday's opening speech of the Flyers game and what took place on Monday night, but it is 7:30 start time tonight because it's to accommodate a national TV audience, and Coatesy and Tim Saunders will have the call right here on 97.3 ESPN. You did touch on something there that I really do want to dive a little bit into, Coatesy. Is this still a rivalry? Does it feel like a rivalry still, and are the players looking at it like that? Because 67,000 people saw the Penguins win at Heinz Field, and then the Penguins also won 5-4 and 4-2 before 5-4 and 4-2. Is it a rivalry right now because the Penguins have had such success and the Flyers are where the Flyers are?
Well, I think there's still a dislike between the two teams. I mean, it's very hard to. This is another part of the game that you have to, as a player, it's a lot better to play when you're angry. This is a really good game to play when you're angry, and you're a better player if you're angry. So if you're angry playing a Pittsburgh Penguins team at a time when you need an absolute win, no matter how good they are, and no matter what, that the fact that they're the Stanley Cup defending champions, that has nothing to do. You hate them. Let's go out and ruin their night and help our situation. And I think that adds to it. And I think just despite the Flyers not doing well and the Penguins being right there again, has nothing to do with winning this hockey game.
Coatsy, I can't remember the date. I'm struggling to find it while you're answering, but I know I went to a Flyers-Penguins game at the Spectrum. And I mean, young Flyers fans like my girlfriend's son who's in his 20s, they don't remember that period of time when the Flyers absolutely owned the Penguins. The Penguins would come east, take their whooping, turn around, and go back. But I do know that I went to a game when I was my girlfriend's son's age, and there was like 268 penalty minutes or something. I thought it set a record. I mean, there was fights all over the ice. Those days are gone by, but and we're not going to see that kind of stuff, but you're definitely going to hear some fans in the seats express their quote-unquote love for Sid the Kid tonight, right?
Well, that probably made the rivalry that much more exciting to watch when Giroux and Crosby pushed and shoved, and when Laviolette stood up and on the bench wanted to fight Dan Bilesville. I think all those different things kind of add to it. The time you're talking about is back in the 80s, late 70s or in the 80s, when the big joke was, I think they went by years and years and years without winning in the Spectrum before Mario Lemieux came. And it used to be the big joke that they could save on the flight and the hotel and the meal money by just